All right, so my name is Jake Lichtel. I am 26 years old. I'm a student at Duke Divinity School, North Carolina, Durham, North Carolina. And these are the questions for the intercultural communication course. Um, Speaking about social opposing sides of the wall, interview questions. Question one: do you think there's a need for the wall? If so, why? Personally, I don't believe there is a need for the wall as far as our government's policy around immigration. I don't agree with the building of a wall. I think if we want to stop illegal immigration, there are probably better ways to do that. Why do you think people are opposed to your view? I think some people are concerned about terrorism. I think they have good concerns, including stopping the flow of drugs from Mexico and the swell of the cartels, which is a major concern. I disagree with the policy front that building a wall, which feels more like a metaphor for stopping immigration and all of this, is going to be beneficial. If you want to stop the flow of drugs, we should end the drug war and remove some of our barbaric policies around drugs. Um, some policies could be that of Portugal, which decriminalized all substances. Um, Fundamentally, what that allows for is the decriminalization of the use of those drugs, um, but also I would go as far as legalizing um, some, if not all, currently illicit substances. Because if the cartel is making their money off funneling drugs over across the border because of Americans' appetite for use, we should legalize it and have an open and clean market rather than a black market. Black markets inherently have risks and cause pain and destruction, unfortunately, and we're seeing that with the border wall rhetoric. What would be the best solution to both sides? Um, my particular immigration view, I hold more of an open borders policy. Um, I believe that we should have um, limited border, not border security, but limited restrictions on where we can move. I have a libertarian political philosophy, which inclines me to believe in the free movement of people. This includes the idea that unless you have a communicable disease, um, you're a violent criminal, maybe you're a terrorist, you should have pretty easy access and flow across borders, including the United States and other countries. So I think the best solution for both sides would be one, we end the drug war. Two, if you want to build a wall, build a fence, whatever, try to curb illegal immigration. Maybe we give you some money for border funding. But we try to fix the systemic issues around why people are coming here, including one of those being the drug war. How do you think that the wall Trump is building is going to impact the laborious jobs that Mexican immigrants fill? Um, I think the labor jobs that the Trump administration, or excuse me, the labor jobs that Mexican immigrants fill in this country, it definitely will be abated. I think if they try to go forward with increased border security, including building a wall. I don't know how effective walls are, to be quite honest with you, especially in the context of a large, porous border that we have over 3,000 miles. Um, I don't think a fence is going to do much. Um, I do think that there might be a supply of people that want to come here and work that might be decreased. Again, I support people being able to have the free ability to move, and that includes across nation states, and that includes across countries to work and to engage in commerce and all of these other relevant activities that all humans participate in, including Mexican immigrants who I think fundamentally don't want to leave their country, but they're coming to the United States for a better life. And, so I think at the end of the day, Trump's wall will have maybe a limited effect on those who are coming over here to do labor jobs. Do you think the wall will really stop drug trafficking and other illegal activities? I don't think so. Most of the drug trafficking comes through the points of entry. So building a wall fundamentally is not going to fix the problem of drug trafficking. It may abate some other illegal activities, but I highly doubt it since like I said, most of those drugs are coming through border checkpoints, including some of that human trafficking and other things. Building a wall is not a border checkpoint. If that's your goal, beef up border checkpoints, and put more into enforcement. But again, I'm not pro that type of enforcement to begin with. From your perspective, what are the pros and cons for the border? Not sure I understand this question. Um, I think all nations have borders. As far as if the pros of having a tighter border security, um, I really don't know what the pros would be, except if you're very concerned about illegal immigration, if you're concerned about terrorism, some of those things might be abated by having a stronger border. Um, I think we have to nuance the perspective of when we talk about immigration, illegal and legal. I believe we need to open up more legal channels, including asylum claims. Most people that are coming to our border at this point are coming in for asylum claims, and I honestly believe that we should open up the opportunity for more people into this country. We have room. Um, let's see. It's the cons again. The pros, I think of the pros of the border again, potential security. I think the cons. I think there's a human cost. I definitely do believe there's a human cost to closing the border, for not allowing asylum claims to get through. Um, I think it's probably going to be detrimental to the economy. Illegal immigrants come to this country, whether they're legal or illegal. They pay taxes, they work jobs, they have families. Um, there's a couple different studies that have come out by the Cato Institute talking about the net benefit on the economy of illegal immigrants. Of course, there are always costs, there are always externalities, but on the whole, they are a net benefit, even though they're illegal immigrants and have come through illegal channels as far as our federal laws are enforced. How does the border impact you specifically? It doesn't. Um, I'm an American citizen. My family fled from Cuba in '61. My mom's family is from here many generations back. I don't have any family that are affected by the border. I know people that are affected by the border since I've been in Durham and seeing some asylum claims and people being deported by ICE and different things. I think in that context it's affected me, but not on a personal level as far as a family or a friend. But my moral sensibilities are a little bit pricked. Should children and parents be detained separately? I don't think so. As far as I understand, that policy was initiated under the Obama administration, and at that point, nobody had a problem with it. It did get some pretty bad coverage under the Trump administration in recent years. I don't like it. I think it was a bad policy then. It's a bad policy now. Overall, our country has very indiscriminate and I think ultimately wrong immigration policies, and I think we need to have comprehensive immigration reform. One of those problems would be the children and parents being taken away from each other. It's a cruel and harsh reality that we see at our border. Why do I think people cross the border? I think people cross the border because they're looking for a better life. They're looking for economic opportunity. They're looking to be with family. There's a number of reasons. I think people, for the most part, are good people and want to come for economic opportunity and benefit. You know, does the wall solve anything? If it does, what? The wall might solve a political problem if you're the president. You have a lot of people in this country that are for stronger border enforcement. And they see the wall, at least in my eyes, as a middle finger to Mexico and maybe a middle finger to the other countries in the world. I don't think at the end of the day it's an effective tool as a policy, but it might be an effective tool as a political weapon, saying, I'm going to build a wall, this whole thing, the rhetoric around that. I think it might be effective to do that for sure. What are your thoughts about individuals who migrate for refuge and safety? My thoughts about those individuals is that we should take those people in and give them asylum. I think it's a human rights violation to not take those people in from countries that they're fleeing, where there's gang violence, narco states, and war zones, failed states. Venezuela is one of those. Um, as the United States of America, I believe that we have not only the obligation, but we have the history of participating in that way in the world. Um, we're a first world power. We're the world's power, and we have a obligation to serve and help those who come to our borders seeking asylum and who have legitimate claims. And again, I believe we need to broaden those asylum claims and make it easier for children and families to receive asylum in this country. Have you met an immigrant? If so, do you know their story? I have met a few immigrants. My family were immigrants. They were Cuban refugees. My dad's family. So yes, I've met my family. I know my family. That's probably the best story that I know. They were Cuban refugees in 1961. Came to this country. Came to Miami. It's a long story, but ultimately at that time, in the early 60s, because they were political refugees, they were given asylum, and they were given ultimately they were given citizenship and a pathway to citizenship. Is the wall the best way to safeguard Americans from illegal activities? Um, Depends on what illegal activities you're talking about. Um, if it's drugs that you want to safeguard people against, I'm sorry to tell you, um, as human beings, we like euphoria and we like to use substances that certain government agencies have called illegal. But we all use caffeine. Some people smoke cigarettes. A lot of people drink. Those are all drugs. Um, I think if you want to safeguard Americans, I believe in harm reduction. And so if you want to safeguard Americans, you should probably allow for free needle exchanges, decriminalization of drugs, open up an open market on certain drugs, if not all of them. We're seeing great strides with that in current marijuana policy. I believe it's a travesty that we're allowing the cartel in Mexico to function as a narco state selling marijuana across the border when we could have an open and clean market in the United States for the people that want to use marijuana. It's an absolute travesty that we throw people in cages for having one of these medicinal plants. Again, those are my own opinions. But as far as if you want to safeguard Americans against illegal activity, I think we need to remove harm reduction and we need to stop being so puritanical about some of these issues. Do you think the wall will stop people from wanting a better life or seeking other ways to immigrate? Of course not. Of course not. Um, Already, if you're an immigrant, illegal or legal, um, you have an entrepreneurial spirit. Nobody wants to leave their country. We're getting the best of the best, the brightest of the brightest, the ones that have the most tenacity to move from the place that they've lived all their lives into another place. Right there, that's self selection. Um, Putting up a wall is not going to stop people from wanting a better life. That's a question of being human. We all want a better life. Just because you put up an extra barrier doesn't remove that want. Do you believe immigrant abuse will be reduced because of the wall? Absolutely not. I think if anything, it's going to increase, especially because of the way that our immigration system is runs on quotas for different countries on how many skilled or unskilled laborers will take in at a given time through the legal processes. It can be being up to 10 to 15-year wait before you're even given an opportunity to come over, which I think is ridiculous. The government can believe it can assume the economic impacts that are necessary for our labor force because again, I don't believe in a centralization of power or knowledge. I believe in a decentralized knowledge, local knowledge. I think individuals know better than a centralized government on what to do and what their needs are economically or labor wise. Let's see. The wall, immigrant. And so for that reason, I think immigrant abuse will actually increase because you're going to have people. It's going to be more difficult to get into the country, and so people that want to be smuggled into the country, they're already paying exorbitant prices to come into this country. Now that it's going to be more difficult, you're going to have higher prices, potentially more rape of those women that are trying to cross, potentially more abuse. So I actually believe that a stricter border enforcement is going to hurt more immigrants than it's going to help. Will the wall keep immigrants out of the U.S., but also keep immigrants in the U.S.? This is, I think, a silly question. It will keep immigrants out of the U.S. No, and I believe you mean illegal immigrants because immigrants just could legal or illegal, and I don't believe that's the case. But I also don't think illegal immigration is going to be they're going to be kept here, especially because they're not necessarily going back. Will the wall keep immigrants out of the U.S.? But also, okay, so how will the economy be positively or negatively impacted by the thousands of jobs created for people by construction of the wall? I personally am not a Keynesian when it comes to my economics, meaning I don't believe that big government projects are what's going to boost the economy. Sure, you're going to have some construction jobs that are created, but ultimately, it's not going to be as beneficial as we think. It is a drop in the bucket as far as the federal budget, but I also believe we need to peel back our federal budget. I also believe that having stricter immigration policies is actually going to negatively impact us economically due to the fact that we, as a nation, employ many illegal immigrants and legal immigrants to work jobs that most Americans, quite honestly, do not want to work. It's not a bad or good thing. It's just a reality. If you remove those incentives for people to do those jobs, prices across the country for different services are going to skyrocket, and ultimately, people are going to be worse off, including those immigrants that we did not let in. So, what is your view on immigration? What do you think the best process or practice would be? Again, let me just state this clearly. My view on immigration is more of an open borders policy. Doesn't mean that I believe in no borders. I do believe in a border, but I believe that the only restriction on the free movement of people should be if you have a communicable disease, if you're a terrorist or a violent felon. Maybe we watch you or whatever and do a background check to make sure that you're not a criminal. But apart from that, law-abiding free people should have the ability to move across arbitrary lines of state because they're human. Period. Specifically, what effect do you think the wall will have on immigration, positive or negative? I think the wall will probably have on illegal immigration a negative effect. I think more people are clamoring to get in before the wall is built, quote unquote. I don't think it's going to be as effective as people think it's going to be either. Do you think the wall aligns or doesn't align with America's values regarding immigration, especially to this region? If so, what would you propose? I think it depends on what you believe America's values are. I think you can make a case. You can be a xenophile, meaning you love culture. So you're not a xenophobe. You're a xenophile. You love it. You love cultures, and you can still believe in a strong border. You can be a border. You can be an immigration restrictionist and love culture. You can also be a border restrictionist and be a xenophobe. Two things can be true at the same time. I personally don't believe. Let me look at that question one more time. I personally don't believe one way or the other the wall aligns with the values of America. I think you could fit it in the values of America, pro and against. I don't think it's value laden necessarily. I think you can make it value laden as a political statement. if you do make it as a political statement, as we want to keep those people out, I think that goes against the moral vision of America, which is a nation of immigrants and hardworking people that come to this country and adopt a set of values and cultures that makes us uniquely American. The unique thing about America is that you can become American no matter what country or place you come from. That's a uniquely American experience. But I don't believe just because you want the border wall that you're not aligning with that vision. But I also don't believe that you're aligning with the vision of America if you don't want it done for political reasons. I think we should stand on principles, and in my case, I think we shouldn't. I believe in a more open and fair immigration system, comprehensive immigration reform, because I believe in the free movement of people, because I believe in liberty, freedom of the individual, and economic freedom across boundaries, across borders. Um, but yeah, uh, hope this is helpful. If you have any other questions, please hit me up and I can try to get back to you. Thank you.